The massive view screen in the United Nations Emergency Council chamber flickered to life, displaying a scene that would forever change the course of human history. Ambassador Chun Wei stood frozen, her coffee cup slipping from trembling fingers as she watched the unthinkable unfold before her eyes. On the screen, 12 human children stood in a line on what appeared to be a crystalline platform suspended in space. They wore simple gray uniforms, their faces pale with terror. Behind them loomed the imposing figure of Executor Zarkon of the Galactic Empire, his 4 arms crossed over his chitinous chest, his compound eyes reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. "People of Earth," Zarkon's voice boomed through the translator, carrying an edge of cruel satisfaction. "You have been found guilty of refusing to submit to the Galactic Empire's authority. You rejected our generous offer of vassalage. You destroyed our diplomatic vessel when it entered your solar system. Now, you will learn the price of defiance." The children on the platform ranged in age from 8 to 14. They had been taken 3 weeks earlier when an Empire raiding party struck a colony ship bound for Mars. Among them was Sarah Chun, Ambassador Wei's own niece, her dark eyes wide with fear, but her chin held high in defiance. General Marcus Thompson slammed his fist on the conference table. "How did they break through our defenses? Our detection grid should have caught them." "Sir," Lieutenant Colonel James Morrison spoke up from his position near the tactical display. "The Empire's stealth technology is generations ahead of ours. We're still analyzing the debris from their diplomatic vessel, but what we've learned so far is troubling." On the screen, Zarkon continued his proclamation. "These younglings represent your future, a future you have chosen to forfeit. Let their fate serve as a lesson to all species who dare oppose the Empire's rightful dominion over this galaxy." President Maria Rodriguez gripped the podium, her knuckles white. "Can we trace the transmission? Launch a rescue mission?" "Negative, Madam President," Admiral Singh replied, his voice heavy with regret. "The signal is being bounced through 17 relay stations across 3 star systems. By the time we could mobilize our fastest ships, it would take months to reach even the nearest possible location." The first child in line, a boy no older than 10, was pushed forward by one of the Empire's soldiers. The soldier's plasma rifle hummed with deadly energy. The boy stumbled, but caught himself, turning to face the camera with remarkable courage. "My name is Timothy Walker," the boy said, his voice carrying across the light years. "I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Tell my mom and dad I love them. Tell them I'm not scared." But he was scared. They could all see it in the way his small hands trembled, in the tears that rolled down his cheeks, even as he tried to stand tall. Executor Zarkon stepped forward, producing a ceremonial blade that glowed with an eerie purple light. "The Empire shows mercy to those who submit. Earth has chosen pride over wisdom. Pride demands a blood price." "Cut the feed," someone whispered in the council chamber. "No," President Rodriguez said firmly. "We watch. We witness. We remember." The blade fell. Timothy Walker crumpled to the crystalline platform, his young life extinguished in an instant. Across Earth, billions watched in horror as the execution continued. One by one, the children were brought forward. Each spoke their name, their hometown, their final message to loved ones. Each met the same fate. Sarah Chun was the 7th in line. When her turn came, she looked directly into the camera, her voice steady despite her tears. "Aunt Wei, if you're watching, remember what you taught me. From sacrifice comes strength. From loss comes purpose. I understand now. Don't let them win." The blade fell again. By the time the last child fell, the United Nations Emergency Council chamber was silent except for the quiet sobs of hardened military officials and diplomats. The screen showed Executor Zarkon standing among the small bodies, his alien features expressing what could only be satisfaction. "Earth has 7 of your solar rotations to surrender unconditionally," he announced. "Fail to comply, and we will return for more of your young. The Empire's patience is not infinite." The transmission ended, leaving only static and the weight of unimaginable loss. President Rodriguez was the first to speak, her voice cutting through the grief like a blade. "Ladies and gentlemen, We have just witnessed an act of war unlike anything in human history. They have murdered our children, broadcast their deaths across the galaxy as entertainment. They expect us to break, to surrender, to bow. She paused, looking around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. They have made a critical error. They have awakened something in humanity that has slumbered since our species left the caves. They want to see what humans are capable of when pushed to the edge. Let's show them. General Thompson wiped his eyes and straightened his uniform. Madam President, I recommend immediate activation of Protocol 7. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Protocol 7 was Earth's most closely guarded secret, a black operations program so classified that only a handful of people knew of its existence. General, are you certain? Admiral Singh asked. Once we activate Protocol 7, there's no going back. Admiral, they executed children on live broadcast, Thompson replied. There's already no going back. President Rodriguez nodded slowly. Do it. Activate Protocol 7. And God help us all. Deep beneath the Scottish Highlands, in a facility that didn't exist on any map, alarms began to sound. Soldiers who weren't listed in any military database sprang into action. In a medical bay that incorporated technology reverse-engineered from the Empire's own diplomatic vessel, a figure stirred on a surgical table. Captain David Hunter opened his eyes for the first time in 3 months. His body, rebuilt with enhanced muscles, reinforced bones, and neural implants that pushed human reaction times to their absolute limit, felt foreign yet familiar. The last thing he remembered was volunteering for the enhancement program after his entire unit was wiped out in a training accident that wasn't really an accident. Captain Hunter, a voice spoke from the shadows. A man in a black uniform without insignia stepped into the light. I'm Colonel Mitchell, Director of Protocol 7. I'm afraid we have to cut your recovery time short. We have a situation. Hunter sat up, his enhanced muscles responding with fluid grace. How bad? Mitchell handed him a tablet, showing the execution broadcast. Hunter watched in silence, his enhanced neural processors analyzing every detail, cataloging every face, memorizing every name. When finished, he set the tablet down with careful precision. When do I leave? He asked. Your mission parameters are being uploaded to your neural implant now, Mitchell replied. You'll be inserted via our experimental stealth craft, reverse-engineered from Empire technology. Your primary objective is to locate and eliminate Executor Zarkon. Secondary objectives include gathering intelligence on Empire military capabilities and, if possible, rescuing any other human prisoners. Hunter stood, testing his new body's capabilities with a series of movements that would have torn normal human muscles apart. Rules of engagement? Mitchell's face was grim. There are no rules, Captain. The Geneva Convention doesn't apply to aliens who murder children. You're authorized to use any and all means necessary. Your call sign for this operation is Reaper. Understood, Hunter said. What about extraction? That's the thing, Captain, Mitchell said quietly. This is likely a one-way trip. The stealthcraft can get you in, but getting out, that's up to you and whatever you can steal or commandeer. Hunter nodded. He'd known when he volunteered for Protocol 7 that he might be asked to make the ultimate sacrifice. After watching those children die, he found he didn't care about coming back, only about making them pay. One more thing, Mitchell added. The enhancement process has given you capabilities we're still discovering. Enhanced strength, speed, reflexes, and healing. Your neural implants can interface with most technology, including Empire systems. But, perhaps most importantly, you've been equipped with something special. Mitchell gestured to a sealed case being wheeled in by technicians. Inside lay a suit of armor that seemed to absorb light, along with an arsenal of weapons that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie. Adaptive camouflage armor, powered by a miniaturized fusion cell, Mitchell explained. Energy shields reverse-engineered from Empire technology. Weapons that fire projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. And this... He held up a blade that looked remarkably similar to the one Zarkon had used, except this one glowed with a cold blue light. We call a plasma blade. Cuts through virtually anything, including Empire armor. We thought it fitting that you carry one. Hunter took the blade, testing its weight. How long do I have to prepare? 6 hours, Mitchell replied. The stealth craft launches at 0300. Your neural implants are downloading language files, cultural data, and everything we know about the Empire. By the time you reach their space, you'll be as prepared as we can make you. As Hunter began suiting up, testing each piece of equipment with methodical precision, he thought about the children who had died. Timothy Walker from Detroit. Sarah Chun, who understood sacrifice. 12 young lives ended for the crime of being human. The Galactic Empire thought they had broken humanity's spirit with their brutal display. They were about to learn that they had instead forged something far more dangerous. They had created a weapon fueled by grief, honed by rage, and aimed directly at their heart. In the council chambers, President Rodriguez addressed the world. Citizens of Earth, today we witnessed an atrocity that defies comprehension. The Galactic Empire has declared war on our children, on our future. They expect us to surrender, to accept slavery rather than face extinction. She paused, her voice hardening. They don't know us very well. Humanity has faced extinction before. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and our own foolishness. Each time, we've emerged stronger. Today, I announce that Earth will not surrender. We will not bow. We will fight with every resource at our disposal. Across the planet, recruitment centers were flooded with volunteers. Scientists worked around the clock to decode Empire technology. Engineers began retrofitting civilian ships with weapons. The entire industrial might of Earth pivoted toward a single purpose: war. But while Earth prepared for conventional conflict, Captain David Hunter prepared for something else entirely. A single human, enhanced beyond natural limits, equipped with the best technology humanity could produce or steal, launched into the void with one mission: make them pay. The stealth craft, designation Ghost 1, slipped through Earth's defense grid undetected. Its hull, coated with materials that bent light and scattered sensor readings, made it nearly invisible even to human detection systems. Inside, Hunter ran through his mission parameters one final time. Primary target, Executor Zarkon. The alien who had wielded the blade against Earth's children will be the first to face human justice. The Empire's home system was 17 light-years from Earth, but the stealth craft incorporated an experimental faster-than-light drive reverse-engineered from captured Empire technology. The journey would take 3 weeks, during which Hunter would continue to train, to plan, to prepare. As Ghost, one engaged its FTL drive and disappeared into the cosmic void, Hunter allowed himself one moment of human emotion. He pulled up the images of the 12 children on his neural display, memorizing each face if he hadn't already. Timothy Walker, Sarah Chun, Marcus Rodriguez, Lisa Park, James O'Brien, Fatima Al-Rashid, David Okonkwo, Emma Larson, Raj Patel, Isabella Santos, Chun Liu, Alexander Petrov. Each name was etched into his memory, each face a reminder of why he was willing to travel into the heart of enemy territory with little hope of return. The Empire had made a calculated decision to break humanity's will through the murder of innocents. They had calculated wrong. Back on Earth, the war machine kicked into high gear. Hidden facilities revealed weapons projects that had been in development since humanity first detected signs of intelligent life in the cosmos. Ships designed for exploration were retrofitted with railguns and missile systems. The moon base, ostensibly for scientific research, revealed hidden bunkers filled with military equipment. But Earth's true weapon had already been deployed. A single enhanced human, trained in every form of combat known to mankind, equipped with technology that blurred the line between science and magic, fueled by a rage that burned cold and purposeful. The Galactic Empire ruled through fear. They maintained control by making examples of those who resisted. They had never faced a species that grew stronger when cornered, that turned grief into purpose, that could produce individuals willing to burn the galaxy down for justice. As Hunter's craft streaked through hyperspace, he reviewed the intelligence files on the Empire. A conglomerate of 43 species, all subservient to the founding race known as the Zarkathi. They ruled through technological superiority and brutal suppression of dissent. Their military was vast, but spread thin across their territory. More importantly, they were complacent. They hadn't faced a real threat in over 300 years. Their tactics were rigid, their responses predictable. They relied on overwhelming firepower and psychological warfare. Hunter smiled grimly. Humanity had written the book on asymmetric warfare. The Empire might have superior numbers and technology, but humans had something else: the ability to adapt, to improvise, to turn weakness into strength. The enhancement process had changed him in ways beyond the physical. His mind processed information at incredible speeds. He could calculate firing solutions instinctively, predict movement patterns, analyze weaknesses in real time. But beneath the enhancements, he was still human, still driven by the fundamental human capacity to choose death over dishonor. As his craft hurtled through the void, Hunter began his final preparations. He reviewed schematics of Empire ships, studying weak points. He memorized patrol patterns gleaned from long-range observation. He practiced with the plasma blade until it felt like an extension of his arm. The Empire had sent a message with the execution of Earth's children. Now Earth was sending a message of its own, delivered by a single man who no longer cared about survival, only about ensuring that those children did not die unavenged. 3 weeks later, Ghost, one dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zarkon system. Hunter's enhanced eyes took in the sight of the Empire's power. Massive battleships, orbital defense platforms, a planet covered in city sprawl that housed trillions. Somewhere in that vast metropolis was Executor Zarkon, secure in his palace, confident that his brutal display had cowed another primitive species into submission. He was about to learn that humans had a saying: "You can kill the dreamer, but you can't kill the dream." The children were dead, but their dreams of human freedom, of a future where Earth stood proud among the stars, lived on. Hunter would ensure it, even if he had to paint the Empire's throne room with the blood of every alien who stood in his way. Ghost, one engaged its stealth systems and began its approach. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin, not with fleets or armies, but with a single enhanced soldier carrying the grief and rage of an entire species. The Empire had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about power. Captain David Hunter, callsign Reaper, was about to school them in return. Captain David Hunter studied the tactical display inside Ghost One's cockpit as his stealth craft drifted silently through the outer debris field of the Zarkon system. The Empire's homeworld lay before him like a glittering jewel wrapped in layers of death. Defense platforms the size of cities floated in synchronized orbits. Battleships that dwarfed anything Earth had ever built patrolled predetermined routes with mechanical precision. But Hunter wasn't looking at the obvious threats. His enhanced vision and neural implants highlighted something far more useful: the garbage scows. Even an advanced civilization like the Empire produced waste, and automated vessels regularly ferried it to processing stations in the outer system. They were beneath notice, following the same routes they had followed for centuries. "Perfect," Hunter whispered to himself, his hands flying over the controls. Ghost One altered course, matching velocity with a massive waste hauler designated in Empire script as Refuse Processor 447B. His suit's translation software converted the alien text instantly. The magnetic grapples deployed silently, anchoring Ghost One to the hauler's underside. Hunter powered down all non-essential systems, letting the larger vessel carry him through the security perimeter. For 3 hours, he waited with inhuman patience as the hauler passed checkpoint after checkpoint, scanners washing over it without detecting the hitchhiking craft. As they approached the orbital processing station, Hunter prepared for the next phase. He sealed his armor, double-checked the plasma blade at his hip, and loaded his rail pistol with armor-piercing rounds that could punch through a meter of reinforced steel. The children's faces flashed through his neural display one more time. Timothy Walker, Sarah Chun, 12 names that would be answered in blood. The hauler docked with the processing station with a resonating clang. Hunter waited precisely 60 seconds, then activated Ghost One's emergency separation. The small craft detached and immediately engaged its stealth field, becoming nothing more than a visual distortion against the stars. Hunter's first step onto the processing station was anticlimactic. No alarm sounded. No guards rushed to intercept. The Empire's arrogance was their weakness. Who would be foolish enough to infiltrate their home system alone? His armor's camouflage system activated, rendering him nearly invisible as he moved through the station's corridors. The few maintenance drones he encountered didn't register his presence. Within minutes, he'd located what he was looking for, a data terminal connected to the Empire's network. Hunter's neural implants interfaced with the alien technology, his enhanced brain processing the flood of information. Security protocols fell before algorithms designed by Earth's best cyber warfare specialists. Layer after layer of encryption peeled away until he had access to shipping manifests, duty rosters, and, most importantly, Executor Zarkon's location. The Executor was hosting a celebration in his palace complex on the planet below, a celebration of Earth's impending surrender. The intelligence made Hunter's jaw clench. They were so certain of victory, they were already celebrating. But the data revealed something else, something that made Hunter's blood run cold. The execution broadcast hadn't been their first. The Empire had done this before, to dozens of species. It was their standard procedure for breaking resistance. And, in a secured file marked with the highest classification, Hunter found references to more human captives. Not children this time. Adults taken from merchant vessels and research stations over the past year. They were being held in a facility near Zarkon's palace, likely as leverage or future victims. Hunter memorized the facility's location and security details, then introduced a virus into the system. Not a destructive one that would alert them too soon. Instead, it was a monitor designed to feed intelligence back to Earth and create subtle vulnerabilities in their defense grid. Earth would need every advantage in the war to come. Next came transportation. Hunter made his way to the station's shuttle bay, where short-range craft ferried personnel and supplies to the planet. He selected a maintenance shuttle scheduled for routine inspection planetside. The two Zarkathi technicians inside never saw him coming. His plasma blade activated with a whisper, and they were dead before they could cry out. Hunter felt no remorse. They had cheered while children died. They were all complicit. He disposed of the bodies in the waste processing system. Fitting, he thought, and took the shuttle's controls. His neural implants had already assimilated the Empire's piloting protocols. To any observer, he was just another maintenance craft following its scheduled route. The descent through the planet's atmosphere tested his skills. The Empire's traffic control was sophisticated, requiring precise responses to automated queries. But Hunter's enhanced reflexes and processing speed kept him ahead of suspicion. He landed at a maintenance depot on the outskirts of the capital city, abandoning the shuttle and disappearing into the urban sprawl. The city was a monument to the Empire's power and cruelty. Towering spires of crystal and metal reached toward the sky, connected by bridges that defied gravity. Holographic displays showed propaganda, celebrating the Empire's latest conquests. And on the largest screen in the central plaza, they played the execution of Earth's children on repeat. Hunter stood in the shadows, watching aliens of various species stop to watch, some with satisfaction, others with carefully hidden disgust. The Empire ruled through fear, and not all its subjects were willing participants. That information might prove useful later. His armor's camouflage kept him hidden as he moved through the city. The palace complex loomed in the distance, a fortress of ivory-white metal surrounded by energy shields and guard towers. But Hunter's target wasn't the palace yet. First, he needed to visit the detention facility holding the human captives. The facility was 3 kilometers from the palace, built into the side of a mountain. It was a prison designed to break spirits as well as bodies. Hunter observed from a concealed position, his enhanced vision cataloging guard rotations, identifying security measures, noting weak points. 24 guards, rotating in 8-hour shifts. Energy barriers at all entrances. Automated turrets with overlapping fields of fire. It was formidable, but Hunter had trained for this. Every defense had a weakness. He waited until the shift change, when confusion was highest. A guard separated from his unit to relieve himself in an isolated corner, a universal biological necessity that transcended species. Hunter struck like a ghost, his blade severing the alien spine before it could react. He dragged the body into deeper shadows and activated his armor's mimetic systems. To anyone watching, guard designation Theta 9 returned to his post. Hunter had to move carefully. His human gait was different from the four-legged Zarkathi stance, but the armor systems compensated, projecting the illusion of normal movement. Inside the facility, Hunter's rage burned colder with each step. The cells were designed for psychological torture. Too small to stand, too narrow to lie down comfortably. Constant noise prevented sleep. The temperature fluctuated between extremes. And in these conditions, 43 humans existed in a state between life and death. Hunter accessed the control system, his neural implants overriding security protocols. Cell doors opened simultaneously. Alarms should have sounded, but his virus had already spread through the facility's network, selectively disabling certain systems. The first human to emerge was Lieutenant Maria Vasquez, reported missing in action 8 months ago. Her eyes were hollow, her body emaciated, but the moment she saw another human, even one in strange armor, hope flickered back to life. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. "Captain David Hunter, Earth Special Operations," he replied, deactivating his helmet's visor so she could see his face. "I'm here to get you out. All of us." Another prisoner, Dr. James Chun, stumbled from his cell. "How? There's only one of you." Hunter smiled grimly. "One is enough. Can everyone move?" They could, barely. Months of captivity had weakened them, but human resilience ran deep. Hunter distributed emergency rations from his kit, watching as they helped each other, sharing what little he had. Even broken, humanity looked after its own. "Listen carefully," Hunter said as they gathered strength. "In exactly 15 minutes, this facility is going to experience a catastrophic systems failure. You'll have a window to reach the motor pool on the lower level. Take the transport vehicles and head for the spaceport. There's a cargo hauler on Pad 7 fueled and ready." "What about the guards?" Vasquez asked. "What guards?" Hunter replied. He left them preparing for escape and made his way through the facility with deadly purpose. 24 guard became 23, then 20, then fewer. Each kill was silent, precise, leaving bodies hidden in maintenance shafts and storage rooms. His plasma blade cut through armor like tissue paper. His rail pistol fired subsonic rounds that shattered skulls without alerting others. By the time he reached the facility's command center, only a skeleton crew remained, unaware that death walked among them. The commander, a particularly cruel Zarkathi named Sub-Executor Malthor, was reviewing footage of interrogation sessions when Hunter entered. "You enjoy watching humans suffer," Hunter said, deactivating his camouflage. Malthor spun around, his four arms reaching for weapons. He was fast for his species. Hunter was faster. The plasma blade took 2 arms of the shoulder, sending the aliens screaming to the floor. "That was for the children," Hunter said calmly. "This is for everyone else." The blade descended again. Malthor's head rolled across the floor, his compound eyes still reflecting surprise. Hunter accessed the command console, initiating a full systems purge. Doors opened, energy barriers fell, and automated defenses went offline. In the motor pool, 43 humans found vehicles waiting, just as promised. Hunter watched on security monitors as they fled, Vasquez taking charge with military efficiency. They would make it to the spaceport. The virus he'd planted would ensure certain security systems experienced convenient failures along their route. Ghost One's automated systems would guide the cargo hauler to a rendezvous point where Earth forces waited. But Hunter's mission was far from over. He had given Earth's military 43 reasons to fight harder, 43 souls saved from Empire captivity. Now it was time for the main event. Executor Zarkon's palace celebration was in full swing when the first reports reached him. A human infiltrator, impossible as it seemed, had attacked the detention facility. 43 prisoners escaped, over 2 dozen guards dead. Security forces were scrambling to respond. Zarkon felt the first tendril of something he hadn't experienced in decades. Doubt. One human had done this? It had to be a larger force, had to be... His thoughts were interrupted by the lights going out. Emergency power kicked in immediately, bathing the palace in red light. Guests murmured nervously as guards rushed to positions. Zarkon activated his personal shield generator, his 4 hands checking weapons with practiced ease. Status report. He barked into his communicator. Unknown, Executor. We've lost contact with perimeter security. Internal sensors are malfunctioning. It's as if the transmission cut to static. Then, over the palace announcement system, a human voice spoke in perfect Zarkathy. Executor Zarkon. My name is Captain David Hunter. You murdered 12 children. Sarah Chun was 7 years old. She liked to draw pictures of flowers. Timothy Walker wanted to be an astronaut. He was 10. I'm here to collect the blood debt you owe humanity. Zarkon felt his subordinates' eyes upon him. Fear was contagious, and he couldn't afford to show weakness. Seal the palace. Kill anything human. Bring me his head. But Hunter was already inside. He moved through the palace like a force of nature, using ventilation shafts, maintenance corridors, and his armor's camouflage to appear and disappear at will. Guards died in darkness, their last sight a pair of cold human eyes. The palace's defensive systems, infected by Hunter's virus, turned traitor at random intervals. Automated turrets fired on guard positions. Force fields flickered on and off, creating openings that shouldn't exist. Door locks malfunctioned, sealing some defenders in while letting death pass freely. Hunter had studied human history, learned from every guerrilla war, every resistance movement. The enemy had superior numbers and firepower, but he had something they didn't: purpose. Every alien he killed was for a child who would never see another sunrise. In the palace's great hall, where hundreds of Empire elites had gathered to celebrate Earth's impending surrender, panic reigned. These were beings accustomed to others dying for them, not facing death themselves. They stampeded for exits that wouldn't open, trampling each other in their desperation. Hunter dropped from the ceiling into their midst, no longer bothering with stealth. His rail pistol barked, each shot finding a target. His plasma blade carved through bodies like a scythe through wheat. This wasn't combat, it was extermination. You celebrated while children died, he said, his voice amplified by his armor speakers. You laughed. You cheered. Now you pay. Some tried to fight. Palace guards, military officers, even some civilian officials pulled weapons. It didn't matter. Hunter's enhanced reflexes made him untouchable. He moved between them like smoke, dealing death with mechanical precision. His armor's shields deflected energy bolts. His blade parried physical attacks. And always he pressed forward toward his primary target. Zarkon waited in his throne room, surrounded by his elite guard. These were veterans of 100 campaigns, the best warriors the Empire had to offer. They stood ready, weapons trained on the massive doors that were the only entrance. The doors exploded inward, torn from their hinges by shaped charges. Smoke and debris filled the air. The guards opened fire, pouring enough energy into the doorway to vaporize a small building. Nothing could have survived that barrage, which is why they were unprepared when Hunter came through the wall to their left, his armor's fusion cutter having carved a new entrance while they focused on the obvious approach. The first guard died before the others could react, Hunter's blade taking his head. The second managed a partial turn before a rail pistol round destroyed his brain. The third actually got a shot off. It splashed harmlessly against Hunter's shields as the human's fist, enhanced to inhuman strength, crushed his skull. 30 elite guards, the best the Empire had to offer. They lasted less than 3 minutes. Zarkon stood alone now, his ceremonial blade in his primary hands, military-grade plasma weapons in his secondary ones. To his credit, he didn't beg or try to negotiate. He was a warrior, and he would die as one. You killed children, Hunter said, approaching slowly. You did to break us, to make us afraid. It has always worked before, Zarkon replied, his weapons trained on the human. Every species breaks when they're young or threatened. It is the way of things. Humanity is different, Hunter said. We don't break. We get even. They moved simultaneously. Zarkon's plasma bolts filled the air where Hunter had been. But the human was already moving, his enhanced speed turning him into a blur. The distance closed in an instant. Blade met blade in a shower of sparks. Zarkon was skilled, his four arms giving him advantages in reach and angles of attack. Any normal human would have been overwhelmed in seconds. But Hunter was no longer normal. His neural implants processed combat data in nanoseconds. His enhanced muscles responded faster than conscious thought. His blade work was a synthesis of every martial art Earth had ever developed, adapted, and perfected for this moment. Zarkon's lower left arm fell to the floor, severed at the elbow. He screamed but kept fighting. His upper right arm followed, then his lower right. Piece by piece, Hunter took him apart, each cut precise, each wound calculated for maximum pain without immediate lethality. Finally, Zarkon fell to his knees, green blood pooling around him. His remaining arms struggled to hold his blade, but Hunter kicked it away contemptuously. "Please," Zarkon gasped. "Make it quick." Hunter pulled out a small device from his armor, setting it on the floor. A holographic display sprang to life, showing the faces of 12 children. "Timothy Walker," Hunter said, 10 years old. "You took 19 seconds to kill him after he spoke." He felt every second. The plasma blade pierced Zarkon's shoulder, pinning him to the floor. The alien screamed. "Sarah Chun, 7 years old. She was my friend's niece." She drew pictures of flowers. Another stab, this time through the leg. Hunter's face remained emotionless, but his eyes burned with cold fire. For each child, a wound. For each young life lost, pain inflicted with surgical precision. Hunter had studied Zarkathi anatomy, knew exactly how to cause maximum agony without allowing the release of death. "Alexander Petrov," Hunter said finally, standing over the broken form of the executor. 8 years old, the youngest. He called for his mother as you raised your blade. "Mercy," Zarkon whispered through his agony. "You showed none. You received none." The final cut was clean, taking Zarkon's head from his shoulders. Hunter stood over the body for a moment, then activated his armor's recording system. "This is Captain David Hunter of Earth, to all Empire forces. Your executor is dead. His palace burns. His guards are corpses. I am one human sent to deliver a message. You killed 12 of our children. In return, I have killed hundreds of your warriors. This is the exchange rate. Remember it." He looked directly into the recorder, ensuring his scarred, blood-spattered face would haunt their nightmares. "Earth does not forgive. Earth does not forget. Earth does not surrender. You wanted to teach us about power? Consider yourselves educated. Any Empire forces remaining in human space have 72 hours to withdraw. After that, we stop being civilized about this." Hunter uploaded the message to every communication system in the palace, ensuring it would spread across the Empire like wildfire. Then, he set the shaped charges he'd planted throughout his infiltration. He had 4 minutes to escape before the palace became a crater. As he ran through corridors littered with bodies, Hunter allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. The children had been avenged, their killers punished. The rescued prisoners would be halfway to the spaceport by now. Earth would receive intelligence on Empire technology and tactics. Most importantly, the galaxy would learn that humanity was not prey. But the mission wasn't over. Not yet. Hunter burst onto a landing platform where several small craft waited. He chose the fastest, a sleek diplomatic courier built for speed over armor. His neural implants cracked its security in seconds, and he was airborne as the first explosions tore through the palace. Below him, Executor Zarkon's symbol of power collapsed into itself, a funeral pyre visible from orbit. Emergency vehicles raced toward the destruction, but there was nothing to save. Hunter had been thorough. He pushed the courier to its limits, racing through the city's traffic patterns. Security forces were responding, but their coordination was shattered. The virus he'd introduced was spreading, causing system failures across their network. By the time they organized a proper pursuit, Hunter had reached the spaceport. The cargo hauler carrying the freed prisoners was just lifting off. Hunter smiled, opening a secure channel. Lieutenant Vasquez, this is Hunter. You're clear for departure. I've uploaded jump coordinates to your navigation system. Earth forces will meet you at the rendezvous. Captain, what about you? Vasquez's voice crackled back. We can wait. Negative. Get our people home. That's an order. He cut the connection and turned the courier toward a different target. His mission had two parts, rescue and retaliation. The rescue was complete. But the retaliation. The Empire's military command station orbited the planet like a metal moon, bristling with weapons. It was from here that their fleets were coordinated, their conquests planned. It was also where the order to execute Earth's children had originated. Hunter knew it was a suicide run. The courier had no weapons worth mentioning. His armor was running low on power. He had perhaps 4 rail pistol rounds left. But sometimes victory wasn't about surviving. It was about sending a message that would echo through history. He pushed the courier's engines past their safety limits, turning the small craft into a missile. Defensive fire lashed out from the command station, but Hunter flew like a man possessed, his enhanced reflexes keeping him one step ahead of their targeting computers. At the last moment, he ejected, his armor's limited thrusters carrying him toward an observation port while the courier slammed into the station's shields. The explosion was spectacular, but ineffective, the shields held. But it had done its job. For just a moment, all eyes were on the explosion. No one noticed the single armored figure until Hunter's fusion cutter was already through the observation port. He burst into the command center like an avenging angel, rail pistol rounds taking down officers before they could react. His plasma blade carved through technicians and soldiers alike. This wasn't about tactics anymore. It was about causing as much damage as one human could before they brought him down. Admiral KYX Tor, commander of the Empire's military forces, tried to rally his staff. Kill him. He's just one human. Just one human. Hunter laughed, his blade finding the Admiral's heart. That's what you thought about Earth. One small world. One young species. Easy prey. He reached the central command console, his neural implants interfacing one last time. The virus, now evolved and spread throughout their systems, responded to his commands. Navigation databases corrupted. Communication protocols scrambled. Weapons targeting systems developed fatal errors. It would take them months to fully purge their systems. Months when their military would be partially blind and deaf. Months that Earth would use to prepare for the real war. Security forces finally breached the command center, pouring in with overwhelming numbers. Hunter's shields failed. Energy bolts burned through his armor. But he kept fighting, kept killing. Each enemy death another second bought for humanity. When they finally brought him down, it took 40 soldiers firing simultaneously. Hunter fell to his knees, his armor sparking and smoking. But even then, with his life ebbing away, he managed to activate one last device. For the children, he whispered. The micronuclear device hidden in his armor's power core detonated. The command center and everyone in it ceased to exist. A hole 10 decks deep appeared in the station's superstructure. Secondary explosions rippled through adjacent sections. The station survived, barely, but it would never be the same. Neither would the Empire. On Earth, President Rodriguez stood before the United Nations, the rescued prisoners behind her as living proof of Hunter's success. The Empire thought they could break us with terror, she said. They were wrong. One soldier, one volunteer, infiltrated their most secure system. He rescued our people. He killed their leaders. He crippled their military infrastructure. He did this alone, proving that each human is worth 100 of their warriors. She paused, looking directly at the cameras. Captain David Hunter gave his life to show the galaxy a simple truth. Humanity doesn't need overwhelming numbers or superior technology. We have something far more powerful, the will to sacrifice everything for justice, the courage to face impossible odds for our children, the determination to make our enemies regret ever learning our name. The crowd erupted in fierce approval. The rescued prisoners wept for their savior. And across Earth, recruitment centers saw lines stretching for blocks. The Empire had expected surrender. Instead, they got a species mobilizing for total war, inspired by the sacrifice of one man who proved that humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy when pushed too far. In the depths of space, Ghost 1 drifted silently, its automated systems faithfully recording everything through Hunter's armor feeds until the final detonation. The small craft engaged its engines and began the long journey home, carrying with it complete intelligence on Empire defenses, technology, and the proof that they could be beaten. The war was far from over, but thanks to Captain David Hunter, humanity had drawn first blood, and the galaxy would never forget the lesson written in that blood. Never, ever kill human children. 3 months after Captain Hunter's sacrifice, Earth was unrecognizable. The lazy blue planet that had once seemed so peaceful from space now bristled with defensive satellites and weapons platforms. The moon had been transformed into a fortress, its crater-pocked surface hiding missile silos and energy weapons that could reach across the solar system. Mars, once the dream of colonists and scientists, had become humanity's largest shipyard, its low gravity perfect for constructing vessels of war. Admiral Jennifer Reese stood on the bridge of humanity's first true warship, the ENS Vengeance. Built using technology reverse-engineered from the Empire and improved with human innovation, it was a kilometer-long testament to what a species could accomplish when survival was on the line. Around her, officers from every nation on Earth worked with seamless efficiency. The old divisions of country and culture had been burned away by the image of 12 murdered children. Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting movement at the edge of the system, Commander Zhang reported. Configuration matches Empire scout vessels. They're testing our defenses, Reese said calmly. Let them come. All stations prepare for first contact. Weapons hot, but hold fire until my command. The 3 Empire scouts entered the solar system with the same arrogance that had characterized their species for millennia. They expected to find a terrified world, perhaps some hastily assembled defenses, maybe a few converted merchant ships pretending to be warships. What they found instead made them transmit frantic reports back to their command. Earth's defensive grid came alive. Satellites that had appeared to be simple communication relays revealed hidden weapon systems. The asteroid belt, humanity's new frontier, erupted with activity as mining vessels transformed into mobile weapons platforms. And from Mars, a fleet emerged that shouldn't have been possible for a species that had achieved faster-than-light travel only through stolen technology. 47 Earth ships, each one unique, each one a masterpiece of human engineering and spite. They moved in formations that would have made ancient naval commanders weep with joy, adapted for three-dimensional combat by officers who had studied everything from the Battle of Trafalgar to the Siege of Stalingrad. The lead Empire scout transmitted on all frequencies. Earth forces, you are in violation of Imperial Decree 77 Alpha. Stand down immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Reese's response was broadcast on every frequency, in every language the Empire used. Empire forces, you are in violation of human space. You have 60 seconds to reverse course. This is your only warning. On Earth, President Rodriguez watched from the Global Defense Command, surrounded by leaders from every nation. The rescued prisoners from Hunter's mission stood with them, living reminders of why they fought. Lieutenant Vasquez, now promoted to major and serving as military liaison, had her hand on her sidearm. She'd sworn an oath on Hunter's memory that no Empire ship would ever again threaten Earth's children. The Empire scouts didn't retreat. They couldn't. To flee from primitives would be to admit weakness, and the Empire never showed weakness. Instead, they accelerated, weapons charging, confident in their technological superiority. They lasted 37 seconds. Earth's fleet moved like a single organism, decades of military doctrine from 100 different traditions synthesized into something new. The lead Earth ship, a former cargo hauler rebuilt with armor plating and railguns, took the first Empire shots on reinforced shields based on their own technology. But where Empire shields were designed for beauty and efficiency, human shields were built with one philosophy: redundancy. When the first layer failed, the second held. When the second flickered, the third activated. And while the Empire scouts recharged their weapons, convinced nothing could survive such a barrage, Earth's fleet responded. Railguns firing projectiles at 10% the speed of light. Missile swarms that confused Empire point defense with random pattern changes. Energy weapons that, while crude by Empire standards, made up for it with raw power output that would have violated a dozen safety regulations on civilized worlds. The first scout ship died when 17 railgun rounds punched through its elegant hull simultaneously. The second tried to flee but found its path blocked by Earth ships that had micro-jumped using a bastardized version of Empire FTL technology. It died under the concentrated fire of 4 vessels, its shields overwhelmed by sheer volume of fire. The third scout managed to transmit a partial distress signal before the ENS Vengeance itself delivered the killing blow. A spinal-mounted weapon that Earth scientists had nicknamed the Reaper, a massive energy cannon that drained the ship's entire power grid for 10 seconds, fired once. The scout ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, every atom converted to component particles. Admiral Reese studied the debris field with satisfaction. Signal all ships. Well done. Maintain formation and prepare for the real attack. They'll come now in force. She was right. Within hours, Empire warships began massing at the edge of the system. Not scouts this time, but a proper battle fleet. 200 vessels, each one theoretically capable of devastating a planet. It was more firepower than they'd used to subjugate their last dozen conquests combined. On the Empire flagship, Fleet Commander Vexhar studied the tactical data with growing unease. The Primitives had destroyed 3 scouts without taking casualties. Their ships were crude, but effective. Their formation spoke of extensive military experience. And something else bothered him, their communications. Play the intercepted transmissions again, he ordered. His staff complied. Human voices filled the bridge, speaking in their various languages. But it wasn't what they said that disturbed Vexhar. It was how they said it. There was no fear, no panique, just cold, professional determination. These weren't civilians pressed into service. This was a species that had been preparing for war its entire existence. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Display it. President Rodriguez appeared on screen, flanked by military officers and, significantly, the prisoners Hunter had rescued. She spoke an accented but clear Galactic standard. Empire Fleet, I am President Maria Rodriguez of Earth. You are trespassing in sovereign human space. Your government murdered children. Your executor was killed in retaliation. Your command station was damaged. These were warnings. Leave now and this ends. Stay, and we will bury you in the void. Vexar subornatus logit. Primitives threatening the Empire? It was absurd. But Vexhar noticed something they missed, the human president's eyes. He'd seen those eyes before, in species pushed to extinction. The eyes of beings with nothing left to lose. All ships, he commanded, advance in standard suppression formation. We'll teach these primitives the cost of defying the Empire. The Empire fleet entered the solar system like a plague of metal locusts. Their formation was perfect, their technology superior, their firepower overwhelming. By all logical assessment, Earth's makeshift fleet should have been swept aside in minutes. But humans had never been particularly logical. The first surprise came from the asteroid belt. What the Empire had dismissed as random space rocks suddenly revealed themselves as camouflaged weapons platforms. Mass drivers, built using mining equipment, began launching asteroids fitted with nuclear warheads. The projectiles were slow, easy to dodge if you saw them coming. But humans had learned about stealth from Hunter's mission, and the asteroids were coated with the same materials that made Ghost, one nearly invisible. 17 Empire ships died to flying mountains before they realized the threat. The second surprise came from Earth's fleet tactics. Instead of meeting the Empire in open battle, they used hit-and-run attacks, micro-jumping in and out of engagement range. It shouldn't have been possible. FTL jumps required precise calculations and significant charge time. But humans had stripped safety margins to nothing accepting a 10% chance of catastrophic jump failure for the advantage of mobility. Earth lost 4 ships to jump accidents. They took 37 Empire vessels in exchange. The third surprise was the virus. Hunter's final gift had been dormant in Empire systems, waiting. When the fleet engaged Earth forces, it activated. Navigation systems developed errors. Weapons targeting became unreliable. Communications experienced mysterious delays. Each glitch was minor, but combined, they degraded Empire efficiency by 20%. And through it all, Earth's forces fought with a savagery that shocked even hardened Empire veterans. When the destroyer ENS remembered the children lost shields and engines, its crew didn't surrender. Instead, Captain Yuki Tanaka aimed her dying ship at an Empire battleship and overloaded her reactors. Both vessels vanished in nuclear fire. When Empire boarding teams managed to breach the cruiser ENS Defiance, they found a human crew had welded blades to their firearms, turning rifles into spears. The boarding teams, expecting frightened primitives, instead faced humans who fought with medieval brutality enhanced by modern weapons. The corridors ran purple with Empire blood before the boarders retreated. But it was the fourth surprise that truly broke Empire morale. As the battle raged, every Empire ship received the same transmission on repeat. It was security footage from Zarkon's palace, showing a single human systematically exterminating elite guards. It showed Hunter standing over the executor's mutilated corpse. And it ended with the same message, translated into every Empire language. One human did this. We are 8 billion. Consider your position carefully. Fleet Commander Vexhar watched his tactical display with growing horror. He'd brought overwhelming force against primitives and was losing. Not quickly, not easily, but steadily. For every Earth ship destroyed, they lost 3 of their own. Humans flew their vessels like madmen, taking risks no sane species would consider. They fought without regard for their own survival, only for the damage they could inflict. "Sir," his communications officer said, voice shaking, "we're receiving reports from home. Multiple systems have experienced terrorist attacks. Suicide bombers hitting government facilities. The virus from the command station has spread to civilian infrastructure. And, sir, there are rumors of other human infiltrators. Enhanced soldiers like the one who killed the executor." Vexhar closed his 4 eyes, understanding flooding through him. This wasn't just a battle. This was the beginning of something the Empire had never faced, a war of extinction. Humans weren't fighting to negotiate better terms or establish their place in the galactic hierarchy. They were fighting to ensure the Empire never threatened them again. All ships, he commanded heavily, prepare to withdraw. His bridge crew stared in shock. The Empire never retreated. It was unprecedented. "Sir," his second-in-command questioned. "Look at them." Vexhar gestured to the tactical display showing Earth ships pursuing damaged Empire vessels like wolves harrying wounded prey. They've lost a third of their fleet, and they're still attacking. They're broadcasting their dead children's names on every frequency. Their ships are named for vengeance and remembrance. This isn't a military engagement. It's a blood feud. And we started it. The Empire fleet began its withdrawal, but Earth's forces pursued relentlessly. Railgun rounds and missiles chased them to the system's edge. Fighter craft, little more than engines strapped to weapons, made suicide runs against Empire engines. Even when the fleet finally jumped to FTL, they left 40% of their number as expanding clouds of debris in human space. On Earth, there was no celebration. President Rodriguez addressed the planet with grim determination. "Today, we show the galaxy that Earth will not be victimized. But this is only the beginning. The Empire will return with larger fleets. They'll attempt to strangle us with blockades, bombard us from afar, or deploy weapons we haven't yet imagined. We must be ready." She paused, looking directly at the camera. "I'm announcing the full activation of Project Prometheus. Every resource, every scientist, every willing soul will be devoted to one goal: ensuring humanity's survival and freedom among the stars. We will reverse engineer every piece of Empire technology. We will build fleets that darken suns. We will train soldiers who make Captain Hunter's sacrifice a foundation, not a ceiling. Across Earth, the response was immediate. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Scientists abandoned personal projects to work on weapons research. Artists created propaganda that turned 12 dead children into symbols of undying resistance. The entire creative and destructive potential of humanity focused on a single objective. But perhaps the most significant response came from an unexpected source. 3 days after the battle, Earth received an encrypted transmission from within Empire space. When decoded, it showed a reptilian face, a member of the Saurian Confederacy, one of the Empire's conquered species. Humans of Earth, the alien said, we are the resistance. For 3 centuries, we have fought the Empire from within, waiting for a catalyst. You have shown that they can bleed, that they can fear. We offer intelligence, safe harbors, and alliance. Together, we can break their chains. Similar messages followed from a dozen species. The Empire's brutal methods had created enemies within their own borders, species who had submitted but never surrendered. Hunter's raid and Earth's defiance had shown them something they'd lost centuries ago: hope. Major Vasquez stood in the newly constructed Hunter Memorial, looking at the holographic display of the man who'd saved her life. Around his image were those of the children he'd avenged and the names of every human who'd died in the battle for Sol. You started something, she said softly, a war that might consume the galaxy. But you also showed us the way, not through technology or numbers, but through will. The Empire expected sheep. Thanks to you, they got wolves. She placed her hand on the memorial plaque, feeling the cold metal beneath her fingers. We'll finish what you started, Captain. However long it takes, however much it costs. The Empire will learn what happens when you murder human children. Outside the memorial, Earth's new fleet grew daily. Ships rolled off assembly lines bearing names like Timothy's Vengeance and Sarah's Promise. Training camps turned civilians into soldiers who studied Hunter's mission footage with religious devotion. Scientists work around the clock to unlock the secrets of captured Empire technology. The first human colony ship to launch after the battle wasn't heading for Mars or Alpha Centauri. It was aimed at Empire space, carrying a specially trained regiment of enhanced soldiers, not to colonize, but to establish hidden bases from which to strike at the enemy's heart. Each soldier had volunteered, understanding it was likely a one-way trip. Each had watched the execution broadcast. Each had sworn the same oath, for the children. The Empire had ruled the galaxy through fear for 1,000 years. They had never faced a species that turned grief into purpose, loss into determination, and fear into rage. They had never fought humans. In the depths of space, automated probe ships spread outward from Earth like seeds of destruction. Each one carried copies of Hunter's virus, refined and evolved by Earth's best programmers. Each one sought Empire technology to infect, systems to corrupt, weaknesses to exploit. The Empire's vast network, once their greatest strength, would become their vulnerability. On a dozen worlds, resistance cells that had lain dormant for decades stirred to life. The humans were coming, they whispered. The humans who killed an executor, who broke a fleet, who feared nothing because they'd already lost what they valued most. Join them and be free. Oppose them and share the Empire's fate. The war for the galaxy had begun. It started with 12 children and 1 soldier. It would end only when the Empire understood the lesson written in Hunter's sacrifice and Earth's defiance. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the predator the galaxy never saw coming. And in the cold depths of space, Ghost, 1 finally, reached Earth, its precious cargo of intelligence delivered to eager hands. Hunter's final mission logs played for Earth's command staff, showing every detail of his infiltration, every weakness he'd discovered, every kill he'd made. But it was his final words, recorded moments before the nuclear detonation, that became Earth's battle cry. For every child they took, we take 1,000. For every tear shed, an ocean of their blood. We are humanity. We are vengeance. We are coming. The Empire had awakened something that had slumbered in humanity's DNA since the species first looked at the stars and declared them theirs. Not conquerors or explorers, but protectors pushed too far, parents who'd lost children, a species that would burn the galaxy down rather than bend the knee. The real war was about to begin. 2 years after the Battle of Sol, the Empire was beginning to understand the magnitude of their error. What they had dismissed as a minor uprising by primitives had metastasized into a galaxy-wide insurrection. The execution of 12 human children, meant to demonstrate the Empire's absolute power, had instead revealed its greatest weakness. It had never faced an enemy with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Commander Elena Vasquez, sister to the major who'd been rescued by Hunter, stood on the bridge of the stealth carrier ENS Ghost of Vengeance. The ship, built in the hidden shipyards of the asteroid belt, incorporated every lesson learned from Hunter's mission. It could slip through Empire space undetected, deliver its cargo of death, and vanish before retaliation arrived. Approaching target system, her navigation officer reported. The Kelmar production facility should be on screen in 30 seconds. Kelmar was a factory world, producing weapons for the Empire's military. Its population of 2 billion worked in conditions that would have been called slavery if the Empire bothered with such distinctions. Among those workers were thousands from species the Empire had conquered, including a growing number of humans captured in raids on merchant vessels. Strike teams, report readiness, Vasquez commanded. 12 voices responded in sequence, each leading a team of Earth's new breed of soldier. They called themselves Reapers in honor of Hunter, each one enhanced with the latest generation of augmentations. Where Hunter had been a prototype, they were the perfected model. Faster, stronger, and equipped with technology that seemed like magic even to Earth scientists. Remember, Vasquez said, her voice carrying to every soldier, we're not here just to destroy. We're here to send a message. The Empire thinks they can enslave humans. Use our people as expendable labor. They're about to learn otherwise. The Ghost of Vengeance deployed its strike craft, 12 sleek vessels that were essentially flying weapons platforms wrapped in stealth fields. Each carried a team of 10 Reapers and enough firepower to level a city block. They descended on Kelmar like invisible angels of death. The first sign of trouble for the Empire garrison came when their orbital defense platforms stopped responding to commands. The virus Hunter had introduced 2 years ago had evolved, spread by human infiltrators and sympathetic aliens throughout Empire space. It lay dormant in thousands of systems, waiting for activation codes broadcast by ships like the Ghost. As Kelmar's defenses flickered and died, the Reaper team struck with coordinated precision. Team 1 hit the garrison barracks, turning sleeping soldiers into casualties before alarms could sound. Team 2 destroyed the communication array, cutting Kelmar off from the broader Empire. Teams 3 through 8 systematically eliminated guard posts around the slave compounds. But it was Teams 9 through 12 that carried out the mission's true purpose. They breached the factory complexes where humans and other enslaved species labored. The guards, expecting docile workers, instead faced Reapers who moved like death incarnate. Sergeant Michael Chun, nephew of the murdered Sarah, led Team 9. His plasma blade, an improved version of Hunter's weapon, carved through a squad of Empire soldiers as if they were made of paper. Behind him, his team spread out with practiced efficiency, each soldier a master of violence honed by 2 years of constant training. Human prisoners, Chun broadcast on all frequencies, this is Earth Liberation Force. We're here to take you home. All enslaved species, you have a choice. Stay and continue serving those who chain you, or fight for your freedom. Choose quickly. The response was immediate. Across Kelmar, slaves rose against their masters. Humans led the charge, but they were joined by Saurians, Ketheri, Volans, and a dozen other species. The Empire had created the perfect recruitment ground for their own destruction. Millions of beings with nothing to lose and everything to gain. As the rebellion spread, Vasquez monitored from orbit. The Empire would respond, but not quickly enough. Kelmar was in a backwater system, valuable for its production, but not strategic enough to warrant a major fleet presence. By the time reinforcements arrived, the planet would be liberated and her forces long gone. "Ma'am," her tactical officer reported, "we're detecting Empire civilian ships attempting to flee the planet." "Let them go," Vasquez ordered. "We're not the Empire. We don't murder civilians. But target any ship carrying military personnel or government officials." Today, the rulers learn what it feels like to be hunted. On the surface, the liberation of Kelmar became a massacre, but only for the Empire. Years of brutality had created a powder keg of resentment that needed only a spark. The Reapers provided that spark, but it was the enslaved populations that turned it into an inferno. In the capital city, a Saurian worker named Krex led a mob of thousands against the governor's palace. The governor, a corpulent Zarkathi who had grown rich on slave labor, tried to negotiate. "I can offer you better conditions," he pleaded as the mob broke down his doors. "More food, shorter hours, even limited self-governance. Let's be reasonable." Krex's response was to hold up a hologram of 12 human children. "Did you offer them better conditions? Did you show them reason?" The governor's death was neither quick nor clean. Across Kelmar, similar scenes played out as the oppressed finally had their day of reckoning. The Reapers didn't participate in the revenge killings. They didn't need to. They had unleashed something far more terrifying than enhanced soldiers. They had given the enslaved hope and the means to act on it. Within 18 hours, Kelmar was free. The factories that had produced weapons for the Empire now turned out arms for the rebellion. The planet's substantial fleet of cargo vessels was repurposed for a new mission, spreading revolution to other slave worlds. Vasquez stood with Sergeant Chun in the former governor's palace, now serving as a temporary command center. Around them, leaders from various species coordinated the planet's transformation from slave world to free state. "The Empire will come," a Ketheri elder said, her feathers ruffled with worry. "They'll burn this world to cinders as an example." "No," Vasquez replied calmly, "they won't. Because by the time they arrive, this won't be the only world in rebellion." Even now, Reaper teams are hitting targets across 3 sectors. The virus is activating in thousands of systems, and every slave who escapes becomes a recruiter for our cause. She activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked Empire worlds. Blue dots showed confirmed resistance cells. Green indicated successful liberations. The map was still mostly red, but blue and green spread like an infection. "This is how we win," Vasquez continued. "Not through conventional warfare. The Empire's fleets are too vast. We win by turning their strength against them. Every slave world they created is a potential ally. Every species they conquered is a weapon waiting to be turned. Captain Hunter showed us the way. One human brought an empire to its knees. Imagine what millions can do." Light years away, on the Empire's throne world, Supreme Executor Malveth studied the same map with growing dread. In 2 years, humans had gone from a single world facing extinction to a galaxy-wide threat. Their ships appeared from nowhere, struck without mercy, and vanished. Their virus corrupted systems faster than it could be purged. Worst of all, their example inspired rebellion in species that had been pacified for centuries. "How?" he asked his council. "How did primitives become such a threat?" Intelligence Chief Zorkan had the answer, though he knew Malveth wouldn't want to hear it. "We underestimated them, Supreme Executor. We saw a young species with inferior technology and assumed they were weak. We didn't understand their history." He activated a display showing Earth's past. For 10,000 years, they fought each other with increasing brutality. They invented weapons that could destroy their world and came within moments of using them. They survived plagues that killed millions, wars that reshaped continents, disasters that would have ended other species. And through it all, they grew stronger. The display shifted to footage of Hunter's rampage. When we killed their children, we expected submission through grief. Instead, we activated something primal in their species. We became the external enemy that united them. Every human alive watched those executions. Every human alive took it personally. "Then, we'll kill them all," General Tormar declared. "Gather the Grand Fleet. burn Earth to cinders. In this rebellion at its source. With respect, General Zorkan said, that strategy is no longer viable. Observe. The display changed to show Earth's current defenses. The planet was surrounded by layers of defensive platforms. The moon had become a fortress that could withstand siege for years. Mars churned out warships at a rate that defied industrial logic. The asteroid belt was a maze of hidden bases and weapons platforms. Furthermore, Zorkan continued, humans have established hidden colonies throughout our space. Even if we destroyed Earth, the war would continue. They've also shared their technology with every rebel species. The virus alone has cost us 40% efficiency in affected systems. And there's another factor, whispered science advisor Kelvan. The Human Enhancement Program. What they did to Hunter was just the beginning. Intelligence suggests they now have thousands of enhanced soldiers. Each one is capable of killing hundreds of our troops. They're not just soldiers, they're living weapons driven by vengeance. Malveth slammed his fist on the throne. There must be a solution. The Empire has stood for 1,000 years. Perhaps, a new voice said, the solution is to consider the unthinkable. All eyes turned to Elder Yaxnil, the oldest member of the council. She rarely spoke, but when she did, even the Supreme Executor listened. For 1,000 years, we've ruled through fear and force, she said slowly. It worked because no species had both the capability and the will to resist. Humans have both. They also have something we've never encountered, the ability to inspire others to match their defiance. We face not just human rebellion, but the uprising of every species we've conquered. Your point, Elder? Malveth asked impatiently. My point is that perhaps the age of empire is ending. Perhaps we should consider negotiation. The word hung in the air like heresy. The empire didn't negotiate. It conquered or destroyed. But, as council members looked at the spreading rebellion on their displays, some began to wonder if the old ways would lead only to mutual annihilation. Back on Kelmar, the transformation continued. Reaper teams trained former slaves in combat techniques. Engineers taught them to maintain and modify captured equipment. The planet's children, free for the first time in generations, attended schools where they learned their species' suppressed histories alongside human concepts like democracy and individual rights. But perhaps the most significant development came from an unexpected source. Dr. Lisa Park, cousin to one of the murdered children, had arrived with the Liberation Fleet. She wasn't a soldier, but a xenobiologist who had spent 2 years studying captured Empire technology and biology. I found something, she told Vasquez excitedly. The Empire's control isn't just military, it's biological. They use pheromone-based conditioning to make slaves more compliant. But human biochemistry is different enough that it doesn't work on us. More importantly, I've developed a counteragent. She held up a small injector. 1 dose, and it permanently breaks the conditioning. A freed slave can think clearly for the first time in their life. We can mass-produce this using Kelmar's medical facilities. Vasquez immediately understood the implications. Every slave we free becomes a true ally, not just someone following orders. How quickly can we begin production? Give me 48 hours and access to the medical district, Park replied. We can produce millions of doses. As Kelmar transformed into the rebellion's first true stronghold, similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Reaper teams, each operating independently, but coordinated through quantum entanglement communicators, another gift from reverse-engineered Empire tech, struck targets chosen for maximum psychological impact. The governor who had suggested the children's execution found his palace infiltrated by Reapers who left him alive, but paralyzed, forced to watch as his empire crumbled on the news feeds, playing endlessly before his eyes. Military commanders who had participated in slave raids woke to find their families relocated to Earth-controlled space, unharmed but held as insurance against retaliation. But it was the liberation of Sanctuary Station that truly shook the Empire's confidence. Sanctuary was a space habitat in the core systems, home to 50 million beings from various conquered species. It was considered absolutely secure, protected by fleet bases and layers of defenses. The Reapers infiltrated it anyway. Led by Captain Alex Thompson, son of Earth's General Thompson, a team of just 20 Reapers sparked an uprising that consumed the entire station. The critical moment came when Thompson broadcast on all channels, showing the footage of the children's execution, followed by images of freed slaves taking control of their own destiny. "The Empire wants you to fear them," Thompson said, standing in Sanctuary's command center as the station's new flag, a phoenix rising from chains, unfurled behind him. But look around. They're fleeing from farmers with stolen weapons. They're losing to slaves who've remembered their people. The age of empire is ending. The age of freedom has begun. The broadcast reached billions across empire space. On worlds where rebellion had seemed impossible, slaves looked at their masters with new eyes. Guards who had seemed invincible suddenly appeared fearful. The mythology of empire superiority cracked, then shattered. In response, the empire did what empires do when threatened. They escalated. Entire populations were relocated to more secure facilities. Dissidents were executed publicly. Military forces were recalled from frontier sectors to maintain order in the core. This concentration of forces was exactly what Earth strategists had anticipated. As Empire fleets gathered to crush rebellion in the center, human strike groups hit the now weakened frontiers. Mining worlds that supplied the Empire's war machine fell one by one. Shipyards burned. Supply lines were severed. More critically, Earth's message spread. On 1,000 worlds, veterans of Hunter's enhanced soldier program trained locals in guerrilla warfare. The virus, now in its 15th generation, adapted to each new security measure the Empire implemented. Human cultural concepts, freedom, democracy, individual worth, spread like wildfire among populations that had known only servitude. Admiral Reese, now commanding Earth's third fleet from the battleship ENS Never Forget, received a priority transmission from President Rodriguez. The president's face showed the wear of 2 years of total war, but her eyes remained fierce. "Admiral, I'm authorizing Operation Damocles. It's time to show the Empire that nowhere is safe." Reese nodded grimly. Operation Damocles was Earth's most ambitious plan yet. Simultaneous strikes on 17 major Empire worlds, including systems previously thought impregnable. It would require every Reaper team, every stealth ship, and precise coordination across thousands of light years. "Understood, Madam President. When do we launch?" "In 72 hours. And, Admiral, make sure they understand, this isn't conquest. We're not trying to build our own empire. We're ending theirs." As Reese began issuing orders, she thought about how far humanity had come. 2 years ago, they'd been one world facing annihilation. Now, they were the catalyst for the greatest revolution in galactic history. The Empire had taught humanity a valuable lesson with those 12 murders. That in this galaxy, mercy was weakness and only strength was respected. Humanity had learned that lesson well. Perhaps too well. The ghost of Captain Hunter seemed to loom over every operation, every freed slave, every Empire soldier who learned to fear the darkness. One man's sacrifice had lit a fire that now threatened to consume the galaxy's oldest institution. In hidden bases across Empire space, Reaper teams received their Damocles assignments. Some would hit military targets. Others would liberate slave worlds. A few had special missions, extracting scientists who wanted to defect, capturing technology that could accelerate Earth's development, or delivering the anti-conditioning serum to resistance cells. But every mission had the same underlying message: the Empire killed our children. Now we're killing their empire. The countdown to Damocles began. Across the galaxy, forces shifted like pieces on a vast chessboard. The Empire marshaled its might to crush what it still insisted was merely a significant rebellion. Earth and its growing coalition prepared to demonstrate that they faced not rebellion, but revolution. In 2 years, humanity had gone from victim to existential threat. The next 72 hours would determine whether the Empire would adapt or fall. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same. Operation Damocles began at 0300 Earth Standard Time on the 2nd anniversary of the children's execution. Across 17 star systems, synchronized to the nanosecond, humanity and its allies struck with a fury that would echo through history. This wasn't just a military operation. It was a statement written in fire and blood that the age of empire was over. On Theros Prime, the Empire's primary fleet base, alarms screamed as reality seemed to tear apart. 300 human ships, led by the newly commissioned Dreadnought ENS Children's Revenge, erupted from hyperspace in perfect formation. But these weren't the crude conversions of 2 years ago. These were purpose-built warships incorporating the best of human ingenuity and stolen Empire technology. Admiral Chinwei, aunt to the murdered Sarah, commanded from the Revenge's bridge. Her voice carried across the human fleet. All ships, execute Hunter Protocol. For the children, the Hunter Protocol was humanity's answer to the Empire's traditional battle tactics. Instead of forming battle lines and exchanging broadsides, Earth ships fought like their namesake, striking from unexpected angles, using mobility and concentrated firepower to overwhelm stronger opponents. Fighter squadrons nicknamed Wasps swarmed Empire capital ships, too small for main guns to track, their micronuclear payloads turning hull breaches into catastrophic failures. But the real surprise came from within Theros Prime itself. Reaper teams had infiltrated the base months ago, living in maintenance corridors, surviving on stolen rations, waiting. As the space battle erupted, they struck at the base's fusion reactors. The explosions chained through the station's superstructure, turning the Empire's mightiest fortress into an expanding cloud of plasma. On Caldara, the Empire's agricultural center that fed a dozen systems, the attack took a different form. No warships appeared. Instead, the planet's entire crop system, genetically modified organisms that the Empire used to maintain food dependency, suddenly died. Human biotechnology had created a targeted plague that affected only Empire crops. Within days, Caldara would need to import food instead of exporting it. The Empire's control, through starvation, was turned against them. Resistance movements, armed and trained by human advisors, struck simultaneously on 7 slave worlds. The anti-conditioning serum had done its work. Slaves who had been docile for generations suddenly remembered rage. Guard posts burned. Overseers fled. On Penthos, a mining world where conditions were so harsh that workers rarely lived past 40, the entire garrison was overwhelmed in 3 hours. The freed slaves broadcast a simple message. We are no longer property. We are people, and we remember everything. But it was on Xerxes, the Empire's intelligence hub, that humanity demonstrated just how far they'd come technologically. The attack began not with ships or soldiers, but with information. Every screen on the planet suddenly displayed the same image, 12 human children standing in line, waiting to die. Then the virus, now evolved into something approaching artificial intelligence, began its real work. Classified files spilled onto public networks. The Empire's citizens learned truths their government had hidden for centuries. Genocide of resistant species, biological weapons used on civilian populations, the systematic starvation of entire worlds to force compliance. And through it all, one message repeated: this is your empire. This is what you supported. Choose, change, or share their fate. The social collapse was immediate. Citizens who had believed they were part of a benevolent galactic civilization suddenly faced evidence of systematic atrocity. Some refused to believe it. Others took to the streets in protest. By the time Reaper teams landed to destroy key infrastructure, they found a planet already tearing itself apart. On Earth, President Rodriguez watched the operation unfold from the Global Command Center. Around her, representatives from 37 species, all former Empire slaves, coordinated their parts in humanity's grand strategy. The Saurians provided intelligence. The Ketheri offered their engineering expertise. The Volans contributed their understanding of Empire psychology. United by shared suffering and human inspiration, they had become a coalition that threatened everything the Empire represented. Madam President, General Thompson reported, initial reports are good. 14 of 17 primary targets have been neutralized or captured. Enemy response is chaotic. Rodriguez nodded. And our losses? Higher than projected, but within acceptable parameters. 18 ships confirmed destroyed, 43 damaged. Reaper team casualties are significant. The teams that hit the reactor cores on Theros knew it was a one-way mission. Their names will be remembered, Rodriguez said quietly. Then, louder, continue the operation. And, General, make sure the Empire knows this is just the beginning. In the Empire's throne room, Supreme Executor Malveth raged as reports flooded in. A third of their fleet was engaged or destroyed. Multiple core worlds were in open rebellion. The virus had corrupted primary data networks so thoroughly that he couldn't trust any intelligence more than an hour old. And, worst of all, the humans had demonstrated they could strike anywhere, anytime. Ow! He screamed at his remaining council. How did primitives do this? Elder Yaxnil, one of the few council members who had advocated for negotiation, spoke carefully. They didn't do it alone, Supreme Executor. Look at the reports. Every strike involves multiple species. Former slaves using human tactics. Our own subjects turning against us. We're not fighting humans anymore. We're fighting everyone we ever conquered, united under human leadership. Then, we'll destroy them all. Malveth declared. Activate the Omega Protocol. If we cannot rule the galaxy, we'll see it burn. Gasps echoed through the throne room. The Omega Protocol was the Empire's ultimate contingency. Planet-killer weapons hidden in dozens of systems designed to render worlds uninhabitable. It had never been used, existing only as a final threat. Supreme Executor General Tormar said slowly, if we activate Omega, there's no going back. The entire galaxy will unite against us. They already have. Malveth's mandibles clicked in fury. But they'll learn the price of defiance. Target Earth first. Then every world that has risen against us. Let them choke on the ashes of their rebellion. But as the order went out, something unexpected happened. The planet killers didn't respond. The virus had reached them first, corrupting their activation sequences. Some self-destructed. Others simply went dark. A few activated, but targeted empty space. Their navigation systems hopelessly scrambled. Only one planet killer remained functional, already an Earth system, hidden in the Orc cloud for precisely this contingency. It activated, beginning its slow but inexorable journey toward humanity's homeworld. Earth would have 6 months before impact. 6 months to find and stop a weapon designed to crack worlds like eggs. The news reached Earth within hours, transmitted by resistance agents within the Empire's command structure. There was no panic. After 2 years of total war, humanity had learned to face extinction with cold determination. So they want to flip the board rather than lose the game, President Rodriguez mused. Very well. Admiral Reese, I'm authorizing Case White. It's time to end this. Case White was humanity's most closely guarded secret, more classified even than the enhancement program. In the deepest vaults beneath Switzerland, scientists had worked on weapons that violated every treaty humanity had ever signed with itself. Weapons born from the darkest imagination of a species that had always excelled at destruction. 3 days after Operation Damocles, as the Empire struggled to respond to attacks on multiple fronts, a single human ship appeared in orbit above the throne world. It was small, unremarkable, broadcasting a simple message. We need to talk. The Empire's home fleet, 500 vessels strong, surrounded the lone craft. Weapons locked on from every angle. A single order would vaporize it. But Malveth hesitated. After the disasters of recent days, he needed intelligence. Who was this human who dared approach the throne world alone? This is President Maria Rodriguez of Earth. The message continued. I'm here to offer you a choice. Surrender or face the consequences of Case White. Destroy her, Malveth commanded. The fleet opened fire. Energy beams that could level mountains converged on the small craft. The ship vanished in a ball of superheated plasma. For a moment, there was silence. Then, laughter echoed from every speaker in the throne room. Rodriguez's voice, very much alive, continued. Did you think I'd be stupid enough to come in person? That was a drone, Malveth. one of thousands we can produce. But this communication is real, and so is my offer. You have 1 hour to respond. Before Malveth could reply, every display in the throne room changed. They showed images from across the empire. Freed slaves building new societies. Human and alien children playing together on liberated worlds. Former empire soldiers laying down arms and joining the revolution. And finally, Earth itself, scarred by 2 years of war, but unbroken, its defenses stronger than ever. You thought you were teaching us about power, Rodriguez said. Instead, you taught us about purpose. You killed 12 children and created 8 billion soldiers. You showed us brutality, and we responded with brotherhood, not just among humans, but with every species yearning to be free. The displays shifted to show something else. Stellar coordinates throughout Empire space. Hundreds of them. Case White, Rodriguez explained coldly. Relativistic kill vehicles. Ships accelerated to 99% light speed, aimed at every Empire world. Unstoppable. Unavoidable. The technology isn't complex. Any spacefaring species could build them. We just had the will to do it. They launched months ago. If I don't transmit the abort codes in 54 minutes, your empire dies. Every world, every station, every moon. Gone. Horror swept through the throne room. They could detect no such weapons, but after the humans' demonstrations of stealth technology, that meant nothing. And the concept was terrifyingly simple. Mass accelerated to near light speed became a weapon that could shatter worlds. But here's the difference between us and you, Rodriguez continued. We don't want to commit genocide. We want justice. So here are our terms. Complete dissolution of the empire. Every slave freed. Every conquered world granted independence. Your military disbanded except for local defense forces. War crimes tribunals for those responsible for atrocities. And the planet killer aimed at Earth deactivated immediately. And if we refuse? Malveth asked, though he already knew the answer. Then, in 52 minutes, you'll learn what humanity is truly capable of when pushed too far. We'll mourn the innocent lives lost. We'll help any survivors rebuild. But the Empire will be a memory, a cautionary tale about what happens when you murder children. The throne room erupted in debate. Hardliners demanded they call the humans bluff. Others pointed out that humanity had demonstrated repeatedly that they didn't bluff. The elder council members, those who remembered when the Empire was young and idealistic, saw the writing on the wall. She's offering us survival, Elder Yaxnil said quietly. More than we offered any species we conquered. More than we deserve after what we did. As the minutes ticked by, reports continued flooding in. 3 more worlds had fallen to revolution. The virus had evolved again, now actively defending human-aligned systems while attacking Empire ones. Reaper teams had assassinated 17 regional governors in synchronized strikes. The Empire wasn't just losing, it was disintegrating. With 5 minutes remaining, Malveth made his choice. The survival instinct that had driven his species to build an empire now compelled him to save what remained. Earth President, he transmitted, we accept your terms. The relief in the throne room was palpable. But Rodriguez wasn't finished. Words aren't enough, she said. You'll transmit the deactivation codes for the planet killer immediately. You'll broadcast the surrender on all frequencies. And Malveth? You'll stand trial for ordering the murder of children. Justice delayed is not justice denied. The next hours passed in a blur. The planet killer powered down, its terrible purpose unfulfilled. Across the galaxy, Empire forces received orders to stand down. Some refused, leading to brief but vicious fighting as loyalists were subdued. But most simply laid down arms, exhausted by a war they'd never understood against an enemy that had proved unstoppable. The relativistic kill vehicles, it turned out, were real but not what the Empire feared. Instead of world killers, they were cargo ships loaded with humanitarian supplies, their incredible velocity allowing them to reach devastated worlds quickly. Humanity's final deception, threatening annihilation while preparing for reconstruction. 1 week later, on the anniversary of Captain Hunter's death, the galaxy watched as the formal surrender was signed. The document was etched in metal, written in every language of every species the Empire had conquered. At the bottom, below Malveth's reluctant signature, were 12 small handprints, symbolic representations of the children whose deaths had changed everything. President Rodriguez stood before the assembled representatives of 100 worlds. Humans mingled freely with species that had been enemies days before. Former slaves stood as equals with their former masters. The age of empire was over. The age of the Galactic Alliance had begun. 3 years ago, Rodriguez said, the Empire thought they could break humanity by murdering our children. They thought we would bow to fear. Instead, they created their own destruction, not through our strength alone, but through the strength of every being who refused to accept that might makes right. She paused, looking directly at the camera broadcasting to the galaxy. Let this be remembered. Humanity didn't conquer the Empire. We liberated it. From fear, from oppression, from the lie that some beings are worth more than others. The children who died didn't just save Earth, they saved the galaxy. In the crowd, Major Vasquez stood with the other survivors of Hunter's rescue. They wore dress uniforms, medals gleaming, but their eyes held the weight of all they'd seen and done. The war was over, but the scars would last generations. As the ceremony ended and beings began to disperse to build their new future, Vasquez found herself at Hunter's memorial. The simple stone had been transported from Earth, placed in a new Alliance capital. Fresh flowers lay at its base, offerings from a dozen different species. "You did it, Captain," she whispered. "One man really did change the galaxy. The children are avenged. Humanity is free. Everyone is free." A young Saurian approached hesitantly. "Excuse me, Major. Are you one of the humans who knew the first Reaper?" Vasquez smiled sadly. "I knew him for exactly 3 minutes. But those 3 minutes changed my life. Changed all our lives. My clutch mother was a slave on Kelmar," the young alien said. "She told me stories of the day the Reapers came. The day she learned she was a person, not property. She named me Hunter, in honor of your warrior." Tears ran down Vasquez's face as she embraced the young Saurian. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human names became common among newborns of various species. The story of 12 children and 1 soldier became legend, told in different ways by different cultures, but always ending the same. Never underestimate humanity. The planet killer was disassembled, its components repurposed for colony ships. Empire weapons were beaten into plowshares. The vast fleets that had threatened worlds now carried food and medicine to those in need. The virus, evolved one final time, became a benevolent guardian of communication networks, facilitating cooperation instead of destruction. Earth itself changed. No longer an isolated world fighting for survival. It became the de facto capital of a new kind of civilization. Human concepts of democracy and individual rights merged with alien philosophies to create something unprecedented, a truly unified galactic community. But humanity never forgot the lesson written in the blood of 12 children. In every human colony, in every ship that bore Earth's flag, the same motto appeared: we remember, we protect, we endure. The enhancement program continued, but its purpose evolved. Where once it created soldiers like Hunter, it now produced explorers, peacekeepers, and guardians. The Reapers became a legend, then a tradition, elite humans who chose modification not for war, but to stand sentinel against any return to tyranny. Years passed. The generation that had fought the war aged and began to fade. But their children, human and alien alike, grew up in a galaxy transformed. They learned about the Empire in history classes, shocked that such systematic oppression had once been normal. They studied the war not as conquerors, but as inheritors of a peace bought with terrible sacrifice. And in schools across the galaxy, children of all species learned the names: Timothy Walker, Sarah Chun, Marcus Rodriguez, Lisa Park, Jamie Zobrai, Fatima Al-Rasif, David Okonkwo, Emma Lawson, Raj Patel, Isabella Santos, Chun Liu, Alexander Petrov, 12 children whose deaths ended an empire and birthed a better galaxy. On the 10th anniversary of the war's end, a monument was unveiled on Earth. Not a monument to victory, but to transformation. It showed a human child and an alien child playing together, their laughter captured in stone. The inscription read simply, "From tragedy, hope. From vengeance, justice. From war, peace. Never forget. Never again." Elder Yaxnil, now an honored advisor to the Alliance, spoke at the dedication. The Empire ruled for 1,000 years through fear. It fell in 3 years to courage. Not the courage of fleets or armies, but the courage of one soldier who chose justice over survival, and one species that chose freedom over safety. Humanity saved us all, not by becoming what they fought, but by remaining what they were, protectors who would burn the galaxy to ash before letting another child die unavenged. As the ceremony ended and crowds dispersed, a small group gathered at a private memorial. The families of the 12 children, now extended across the stars as humanity spread through the galaxy, met as they did every year. They shared stories, memories, and tears, but also hope. Their children's deaths had meaning beyond tragedy. They had been the catalyst for the greatest liberation in galactic history. Sarah Chin's mother placed a drawing on the memorial, one of the last her daughter had made, showing Earth surrounded by stars with stick figures of humans and aliens holding hands. It was a child's vision of the future, drawn with crayons and innocence. A future that now existed because humanity had refused to let her death be meaningless. The Galactic Alliance faced challenges. Species that had been enemies for centuries had to learn cooperation. Economic systems had to be rebuilt. Wounds had to heal. But they faced these challenges together, united by the understanding that freedom was worth any price, and that those who would harm the innocent would face the fury of not just humanity, but all free beings. In the end, the Empire had been right about one thing. Humanity was dangerous. Dangerous to tyranny, to oppression, to any who would claim supremacy over others. They had awakened a sleeping giant and paid the ultimate price. The galaxy had learned a lesson that would echo through the ages. Never, ever harm human children. Because humanity doesn't just get mad. It gets even. And then it gets better. The stars, once symbols of the Empire's dominion, now belong to all. And somewhere among them, Captain David Hunter's sacrifice lived on, not in monuments or medals, but in every being who woke free, in every child who played without fear, in every world where justice had replaced oppression. One man had shown the galaxy what humanity was capable of. A galaxy of free beings now carried that legacy forward into a future bright with possibility.